Well, just spent an hour and a half watching Doctor Strange fight one of those demon birds from Elden Ring. But where else would I see that besides the thing with feathers? And if you want to talk about it, sit down, let's have a drink. Alright, I know that Disney has purchased every commercial ad space in the plausible quantumverse, but sometimes I get a little scared seeing movies that I've heard absolutely nothing about. I mean, this came up 0 times in my daily doom scroll sessions. I mean, one would think that Benedict Cumberbatch was big enough to warrant at least a commercial, but I guess that's only for real Avengers. Alright, I promise that's the last Disney pun, because I've got pros and cons, so let's start off with the pros, shall we? Alright, this was actually one of the hardest movies I had to rate, because I liked it a little more than I thought I would, and it was just as underwhelming as I thought it'd be. Basically, the movie follows a widower played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Fuck you. Who has his life flipped upside down after dealing with the tragic loss of his wife, who now must shoulder the burden of grief and fathering 2 sons by himself. Throughout his time trying to go past these struggles, he experiences some turmoil as his grief is turned into, well, a giant creepy crow. And as if that wasn't strange enough, they actually used this as some sort of horror element added to the film, which I thought for the most part was well done. For the most part. Something about watching a big-ass bird haunt a father and his 2 sons that is really satisfying for me. Yep, it was a good old nightmare on Sesame Street. Honestly, I think grief is a good catalyst for horror. Grief in of itself is honestly already haunting. I mean, you think I came here for dead wives? I did. But I also came here for big-ass giant creepy crows. The crow, symbolized by the father's grief, not only haunts the father, but also haunts his 2 sons. This symbolizes how sometimes your grief can be so overwhelming that it can burden those around you. And honestly, I thought it was a very poetic use of the emotion. And I do have to give a pro for the acting. Not for everybody, just for the one actor that was actually in the film. Yep, Berlin Cucumber really gave us something to wow at here. Honestly, I was pretty impressed by what I saw from him. Okay, granted that I've never seen him do anything else besides throw up gang signs and whip people with a magic cape like a mix between Chris Angel and Pootie Tang, I was still not expecting the performance he gave. Honestly, Hollywood, give him some more roles. Benadryl Cumbersome really showed us that he can shine outside of Disney movies, and I think he'd shine even brighter in a better movie than this one was. Yep, you feeling that energy? We're getting to the cons. I feel like there's another pro in here somewhere, but I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like digging through the mud to scoop up some shit, so you'll have to find it yourself. That being said, let's go ahead and get to the cons. For a movie where there's no actionable goals in place, this movie was wildly predictable. Alright, spoiler alert. By the end of the movie, the family overcomes their sadness of losing their mom/wife and learns to live with grief. The end. Yeah, the only twist here was the twisted tea I brought into the theater. I mean, come on. I sat through an hour and a half of nothing new, nothing unique, nothing fresh. I mean, even if you wanted to use such a cliche situation for a movie, at least throw a little spin on it. I know what you're thinking. Wasn't the spin the big giant crow monster symbolizing the family's grief? Yes, that might be true. However, given that you realize the crow is not real the entire time, it overall just makes it feel less significant. The crow character itself was actually pretty fun, but every single other thing in the movie was, as I said, underwhelming. It sprinkles pizzazz on a movie, but it doesn't fix the issues. It was like watching somebody try to bedazzle a fucking garbage can. Alright, there's a scene in the movie where Binocular Concubine tries to make breakfast for his kids without his wife for the first time. And he burns the toast. Fuck you. Because nobody burns devil damn toast. There's literally a dial to set it exactly how you want it, to prevent the burning. Of course, the loving wife and mother drops dead, and the first aspect of change the movie decides to show us is the classic breakfast going wrong. Classic bullshit. Alright, I know I've been hyping up The Crow, but I also gotta put it down as a con. Don't get me wrong, The Crow actually saved the movie from me giving it a 2. But there were some parts where it felt even lower than that because of The Crow. At certain points in the movie, The Crow felt very comedic. I mean, the entire screen time, you can easily tell it's a guy in a bird suit. 100% practical effects, which I actually appreciate, because you know I fucking hate CGI. But maybe the appearance of the crow could have been a little less obvious. I don't know, maybe a little more subtle. I feel like that would have added to the horror element, which I appreciated so much. Alright, there were moments where the crow was actually meant to be goofy and portrayed in a comedic way. However, even some of these scenes felt misplaced. Comedic scenes should not be used to break dramatic tension. Rather, they should be used for transition into a new scene and or environment. A comedic moment should never pull the audience out of the moment. Alright, the bird was a little unsubtle, but the entire movie was a little unfucking subtle. Tragically, this movie does not give you a single minute without reminding you what exactly it is you're watching. Throughout the entire movie, our demon bird literally screams at the top of his beak in Bentley Cadillac's ear, reminding him that he's a widower. The entire movie. And that his wife is dead. At one point in the movie, the bird outright just tells us what it is. That it's a representation of Ben 10's grief. I felt like the movie had subtitles, but someone was reading the subtitles at me while I was watching and reading the subtitles. And it was a little bit of a killer. I honestly wanted to like this movie more than I did. And I felt like I would have if there was even one less con on this list. But director Dylan Southern wanted to serve me a big plate of bird ass on a stick. Thanks, Dylan. And for that, I had to give this movie a 4.5 out of 10. I almost gave it just a 4 for the lack of subtlety, but I really did like The Crow. So, I'll give the W to The Crow. If I had to recommend another movie where a parent loses their significant other and has to struggle on their own raising 2 children, well, I would highly recommend the movie Wolf Children. But I want to know what you think about The Thing with the Feathers. Talk to me in the comments.